Hi everybody, welcome back to what I think is probably part 3 of our how to make a sheath with integral belt clip tutorial for a multi-tool. In this case it's for a Leatherman Juice XE6, but it could be for a Swiss Army knife or Gerber or any multi-tool you have. You could just adjust the dimensions and get what you want. So last we left off, I had not liked what I had done in part 1, so part 2, instead of being what I wanted part 2 to be, part 2 was redoing it to make me happy. What you see on the screen is what I wound up with. What you see here is what I did in part 1. Whoops, I didn't like this design at all. Didn't work out for me, so this is what we have in part 2. We are nice and flat looking at this view, but yet we have our swell for the juice on this side. So let's take this opportunity and polish off our belt clip, get what we want. I will show you a couple of different ideas I have for the belt clip, and you can run with them and see what you like. And I want to show you a number of different ways to do it. So let's zoom in and let's start with the bottom. We could shove this into our belt just like this, but any pressure on the bottom is going to lift it up. And of course, this wouldn't hold into, if you decided you wanted to hook it onto, put it in a pocket and hook this over your pocket, it's not going to hold at all. So my first thought was just do a circle, and let's try it. Let's create a sketch. We're going to create it, create a sketch. We're going to create it on this side of the belt hook, and let's sketch a circle, and we're going to say 2-point circle. Oops, sorry. Circle, 2-point circle. Let's come here. Let's come here. And I left 5 millimeters for this. So let's say 5 and enter. And let's say E to extrude. Let's click here. Let's extrude that way. Whoops. That way. And all is not going to work here on a join because it doesn't really know what all is. So we are going to say, I could type in 20 millimeters, but let's change distance to object, and let's select this face. Let's say OK. Now I have a little thing there to keep it from coming over my belt, but I'd really like it to go all the way into against there. I'd really like it to be a little bit more secure. So I'm going to Control Z back. Let's do the same thing again. I've still got my sketch open. So I'm going to say sketch, circle, 2-point circle. Let's go here and here. And I know I left 5 millimeters. So all I have to do is come out until I touch. So I need a 10 millimeter circle. Whoops, that was 19, 10. And now we're going to say E to extrude. We're going to click that. And now we're going to go over let's go over here and change distance to all and click on this other face of the belt clip. Why isn't it doing it? Distance, all. Oh, I can't use all for this. Duh. Didn't I just tell you that I can't use all for this? I ought to watch my own videos. To object and this face and OK. So let's zoom out. So there's the bottom of our clip, and that thing's just humongous. Plus, it's taking up so much space. I now didn't leave enough room up here to fit over my 1.5-inch belt or 38 millimeter wide belt. Let's see how big it is. Let's hit I. I brings up the measuring tool. And I know I made that 5 millimeters up. This is 45 millimeters. Well, actually, I made it 10, didn't I? So I'm down to 35 millimeters, so that's not enough. So besides, it's stupid looking. Let's go Control Z. And let's think about this for a minute. Here's something you could do. When I was younger and really active, I liked belt clips that actually hooked underneath my belt so they couldn't possibly come off. So to make something like that, we would go sketch, and there's a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to do it the way I think is easiest. 2-point rectangle, come up to there, let's come over against there and let's come up 5 millimeters. 5, because I know I have 5. I'm not going to leave this, so I'm not going to worry if it's exactly right, because I don't really want this. Let's zoom in and let's do this again. Let's do one more rectangle in Sketch, 2-point rectangle, and let's come, say, there to there and down to there. Oops, that was too far, wasn't it? Let's Control Z back out of that. Control Z one more time. And Sketch, rectangle, 2-point rectangle, and we're going to go from there, say, to there, and hit Escape to get rid of our rectangle tool. And we're going to say E to extrude. We're going to click this. We're going to go over, and we're going to say distance to object. We're going to click this face, and there is your belt loop that would we got to say okay. There's your belt loop that would actually hook under your belt. To get this off your belt, you would have to shove it down and then pull the belt loop out from around the belt. This wouldn't come off your belt. You'd have to break the clip to get it off your belt if you didn't push it down for clearance, and you would have to make sure that you had enough clearance in here to get it far enough down to clear this out from the underside of your belt. And I used to like these kind of things because if I broke the clip, I would hear it and know it. And then I could go get my $100 multi-tool off the ground, as opposed to having something slip over and me not realizing it was gone. So, but I don't do those kind of things anymore, and I don't want that. So I'm going to Control Z back one more time. And I got an idea what I want to do. I'm thinking I like the circle, but I don't want it quite so big. So I'm going to use an ellipse. Yeah, that's what I think I'm going to do. Let's try it. We still have our sketch open, so let's come to Sketch and Ellipse. And let's zoom in a little bit so I can see what I'm doing. Let's click here. Let's click, I know I can come up 5 millimeters. I may have to make this longer, but let's try 5. And 5. And then click, and then let's come out. I did that wrong, didn't I? I did that, didn't do what I wanted there, did I? So let's escape back out of there. And let's try it again. Sketch and ellipse. And this time let's come from the middle. About there. Was that about right? I think that's about right. And then to there. And now I can kind of do this. So let's do that. Let's see what that looks like. And escape to get rid of the ellipse tool. And then E to extrude. Click on my ellipse. We're going to pull it this way. We're going to come over to our toolbox. And we're going to say distance to object and click that face. And okay. Oh, it tried to cut. Darn it, I hate when it does that. Let's see if I can fix it without having to redo it. So we're going to click down here in our history. Every step along the way in Fusion leaves something down here in the history. So I'm going to right click this last extrusion and click Edit Feature. And notice it has it set to cut. That's because I went slightly under the distance there. Let's change cut to join and see if that'll give me what I want, and say okay. Okay, that's what I want. So there we have an ellipse. Now the question is, do I have enough room for my belt in here? So again, let's use I for the measure tool, and let's measure this line. I need 38 millimeters. What do I got? 39.22. That's pretty cool. I like that. Okay, so now I have a problem. And that problem is this area at the top of the clip is not printable. I can't bridge that much. I'm going to have to do something about that. And there's a number of things I can do about it. First and foremost, I got a pop up here. Let me close it. First and foremost, thanks for the comments, by the way. I appreciate all the comments that aren't openly calling me an idiot. And when I'm an idiot, even those sometimes are helpful. So Let's look and see what we're going to do about this area that really doesn't seem printable. And there's a couple things I could do. I could use my fillet tool. So modify and fillet, and I could click here, and I could come out half the distance, which is what, 2.5? Because this was 5 millimeters, 2.5, and enter. And then I could do the same over here, modify, fillet, and 2.5, enter. Now, this fixed a number of problems. First and foremost, it gave me a little bit of extra material in here and a little bit of extra material over here. Nothing wrong with a little extra material when you have something that's going to get bent in and out. But I have something I don't like, and that is I don't care for this arch. I'm not really sure that arch is going to print. It's only 20 millimeters wide, and the printer might do that okay. I'm just not convinced of it, and I'm not sure I want to make the attempt. So I'm going to go Control Z back to get rid of that, and let's try a chamfer. And let's click in here. Let's do both sides at once this time. Let's click in here, and again, let's say 2.5 and enter. This achieves two things. One, it makes it printable, and two, it gives me my extra material to make the clip stronger. The only problem is I don't like it very much. I could also run the chamfer just up one side, but then that would take away my extra material. I don't like that. So since I did an ellipse down here, let's do an ellipse up there too. So let's go Control Z back. Let's zoom in a little bit, and let's try. The first thing I think I'm going to need to do is make this a bit thicker to do this, and to do that I may need to make the whole thing longer. So let's come down to our history and let's find out where I drew this rectangle down that I made our belt clip out of. I think it was this one. I'm going to right click that drawing. I'm going to say edit sketch. I have it down at 48 millimeters. Let's add 5 millimeters to it. Let's make it 52. Enter and stop sketch. And now I should have more space in here. Let's check it. I think I was 39.22 before. Let's hit I. Let's click this line to measure it. And now I'm 43.22. So I added 5 millimeters in this distance. It's kind of neat that you can do that in Fusion. Sometimes when you do it, it buggers stuff up, but a lot of times, like in this case, it's fine. So now what I want to do is I'm going to extrude this down to put that 5 millimeters in here. So I'm going to hit E to extrude. I'm going to click there, and I'm going to come down 5. Whoops, that was 3. That was 5 millimeters. So let's check my distance again just to make sure. I for measure. This line is 38.22, so that will still fit over my 1.5" belt. Now let's create a sketch on this surface. Let's zoom in a little bit. Let's draw ourselves an ellipse. So we are going to sketch an ellipse. We are going to start in the center of this, and it locked in for me, which is nice. I wasn't really expecting that. And we're going to go out to this line here, and now we're going to come up. And an ellipse is going to do a couple things for me. I think it's going to make it easier for the printer to print it. And you know what? We're on a theme here, so let's stick with it. 8 millimeters, 10. Well, 10 might be okay. What do you think? 10 okay? Let's try 10. 2. That might be a little thin at the top. Let's go 9. I like 9. 9's a good number. One of my favorite numbers. So let's hit E to extrude. Let's click that. Let's go this way. And we're going to come and say distance to object. It's a cut, so we can say all. And OK. And now, you know what let's do? I normally don't do this to the end, but I want to get the full look of the belt clip before we go any further. Let's say modify and fillet. Let's put a fillet there, and let's get it over here so we can look at it. And let's make a fillet in there a little bit. That looks pretty good. What is that, 4.5? Say okay. Okay, there's our belt clip. I kind of like that. I kind of like that ellipse. What do we got for time? 15 minutes? I'm going to take the next 2 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and go a little back. The others have been 17, so let's stay with there. My next thought is, how am I going to get the bloody thing out of here? I mean, it's going to sit flush with the top. I'm not going to take the thing off my belt and turn it upside down and shake it every time. That's absurd. So my first thought was just coming to the bottom, going sketch on the bottom surface, and sketch a center diameter circle and come out around 20 millimeters and E to extrude that up, say okay, and now I got a hole on the bottom. I can shove my finger in it and push it up and grab it. It not only gives me a way to grab it, it fixes it so it's not going to fill with water. Somebody who lived in the Seattle area nearly 20 years, this would fill with water, and that would suck. It would suck when you took it out, and it would suck if you jammed it back in and it was full of water. So, but I have really big hands, so I think that would work for me. But if your hands aren't as big as me, you might have a tough time one-handed pushing that up with your finger and still getting a hold of it. So I don't like that. So let's go Control Z back and let's get back where we were. Let's kill that sketch on the bottom. We're doing ellipse. Let's stick with ellipse. So let's create a sketch on this front surface. Let's go back to our ellipse tool and ellipse chuck, sketch an ellipse, and lock our pointer in and go out. And how big do we want our ellipse? How fat is your finger? Let's say 18 millimeters. That should be big enough for the fattest finger, huh? And enter. Nope, that was wrong. Sorry, I did it wrong. Sketch ellipse. I do this every time with the ellipse tool, almost. So we want to say 18, and then we want to click, because otherwise we lose it completely. And then we want to come up, and how much do we want to come up? We want to come up enough that you can pull this up with your finger and still be able to grab it, like with the in the web of your thumb, I think is how it's going to have to happen. So 40 seems like an awful lot. I mean, that's, well, 40, this would be 20, because it's half the distance of our ellipse. Let's come up 50. Let's try that. Okay, escape to get rid of our ellipse tool. Let's click on that, and oops, we have to say E to extrude. And now let's open that out. The wall thickness is only 2 millimeters. That's something I'm not going to change, so I'm just going to say 2. I could also say, no, I have to say -2. Let's go this way again, and this time let's say distance all. That's going to go all the way across. We don't want to do that. So we are just going to go back to distance and say -2. If that's the way it wants to be, fine. Okay, now I got a hole in our side, but I'm still not going to be able to push it up. So let's create a sketch on the bottom right there. And let's, hey, you know what? We're on a roll. Let's stick with ellipse. Let's say sketch an ellipse. And we are going to come to our center. Oops, ellipse. Where's my ellipse? There we go. We are going to come to the center. We are going to come down to one of these edges. We're going to click, and we're going to pull back. And how far do we want this? I don't think I want this to go more than halfway. So I'm going to go, say 24. 24. And enter. Enter again. Now we're going to E to push pull. We are going to click on that, and we are going to go up. And I'm not going to tempt fate with all again. I'm just going to say -2. And okay. So there we go. Now it won't fill with water. And now if you have smaller hands, you'll be able to pull the tool up with your finger far enough to get a hold of it with your thumb and your knuckle of your index finger. That's my plan anyway. I hope it works. But that's it for today. We got our belt clip finished. We got a nice little nub. This nub will hook it under our belt, but it won't like hook it so solid that it's going to make it hard to get off. We got a nice ellipse here, which I'm hoping is going to print. Well, we'll find out when we print it. I think I'm going to print this in PETG. I've been going on for 20 minutes now, and that's over what I said I was going to do. But look how far we've come. So if you like this video, if I've taught you something or even entertained you, please like and subscribe. I have some affiliate links below. If you need something at GearBest, it certainly would help me out a little bit if you used them. And I will catch you the next time. Might be a few days before I come back with the next one, because in the next one, we're going to finish this design off, put some nice little polishes on it, and get it printed. Bye for now.